Gandersheim Abbey is a former house of secular canonesses in the present town of Bad Gandersheim in Lower Saxony, Germany. It was founded in 852 by Duke Liudolf of Saxony, progenitor of the Liudolfing or Ottonian dynasty, whose rich endowments ensured its stability and prosperity. The Imperial Free Secular Foundation of Gandersheim, as it was officially known from the 13th century to its dissolution in 1810, was a community of the unmarried daughters of the high nobility, leading a godly life but not under monastic vows, which is the meaning of the word secular in the title. Church. In the Collegiate Church, the original Romanesque church building is still visible, with Gothic extensions. It is a cruciform basilica with two towers on the westwork, consisting of a flat-roofed nave and two vaulted side aisles. The transept has a square crossing with more or less square arms, with a square choir to the east. Beneath the crossing choir is a hall crypt. The westwork consists of two towers and a connecting two-story block. It originally had in addition a projecting entrance hall, also on 2 stories. The Paradise. The present church building, which has been subject to restoration in the 19th and 20th centuries, was begun in about 1100 and dedicated in 1168. Remains of the previous building are incorporated into the present structure. History. Foundation. Gandersheim Abbey was a proprietary foundation by Duke Liudolf of Saxony and his wife Oda, who during a pilgrimage to Rome in 846 obtained the permission of Pope Sergius II for the new establishment and also the relics of the sainted former Popes Anastasius and Inisland, who were still the patron saints of the Abbey Church. The community settled first at Brunshausen. The first abbess was Hathumod, a daughter of Liudolf, as were the 2 succeeding abbesses. In 856 construction began on the church at Gandersheim, and in 881 Bishop Wigbert dedicated it to the saints Anastasius, Innocent and John the Baptist, after which the community moved in. Already in 877 King Louis the Younger placed the abbey under the protection of the empire, which gave it extensive independence. In 919 King Henry I granted it imperial immediacy. The close connection to the empire meant that the abbey was obliged to provide accommodation to the German kings on their travels, and numerous royal visits are recorded. Middle Ages. The establishment of the abbey by the founder of the Liudolfingers gave it a special importance during the Ottonian period, until the foundation of Quedlinburg Abbey in 936. Gandersheim was among the most important Ottonian family institutions, and its church was one of the Ottonian burial places. The canonesses, commonly known as Stiftsdamen, were allowed private property and, as they had taken no vows, were free at any time to leave the abbey. The Ottonian and Salian kings and their entourages often stayed in Gandersheim, and the canonesses were by no means remote from the world. Apart from the memorial masses for the founding family, one of the main duties of the canonesses was the education of the daughters of the nobility. One of the abbey's best-known canonesses was Roswitha of Gandersheim, famous as the first female German-language poet. During a period of approximately 20 years, from about 950 to 970 or so, she wrote historical poetry, spiritual pieces and dramas, and the jester Ottonus, expressing her veneration of Otto I. In the Great Gandersheim conflict, as it is called, originating from the turn of the 10th and 11th centuries, the Bishop of Hildesheim asserted claims over the abbey and its estates. which were located in an area where the boundaries between the bishopric of Hildesheim and the Archbishop of Mainz were unclear. The pressure from Hildesheim moved the abbey increasingly into the sphere of Mainz. The situation was only eventually resolved by a privilege of Pope Innocent III of the 22nd of June 1206, freeing the abbey once and for all from all claims of Hildesheim, and granting the abbesses the title of Imperial princesses. With the death of the last Salian king in 1125, the importance of the abbey began to diminish, and it came more and more under the influence of the local territorial rulers. The Welfs in particular attempted until the dissolution of the abbey to gain control over it. The abbey were not able to establish their own territorial lordship. No later than the mid-1270s, the Dukes of Brunswick succeeded in obtaining the vote of the abbey, and in the late 13th century built a castle in Gandersheim. Another way to gain influence over the abbey was to place relatives in the abbess's chair. This took the Dukes of Brunswick-Luneburg rather longer to achieve, but they were at last successful in 1402 with the election of the first family abbess, Sophia III, Princess of Brunswick-Luneburg. Reformation. The Reformation was first introduced into the Principality of Brunswick-Wolfenbüttel in 1542 when troops of the Schmalkaldic League occupied it. The reformers ignored the abbey's imperial immediacy and ordained the use of Lutheran church services, the introduction of which, however, the canonesses were able to postpone on account of the absence of the prioress who was governing the abbey on behalf of the 7-year-old abbess. The townspeople of Gandersheim had received the Reformation enthusiastically, and on the 13th of July 1543 undertook an iconoclastic attack on the abbey church, where they destroyed images and altars. Henry V changed his mind, however, and the principality changed back to Roman Catholicism. He made good at least some of the damages, and the church was rededicated. In 1568, the Reformation was finally implemented under Julius, Duke of Brunswick-Luneburg. The abbey and its dependencies at Brunshausen and Cielus became Lutheran, and the Mariankloster and the Franciscan friary were suppressed. A period now began of conflict between the abbess and the duke, as both tried to extend the spheres of influence, a conflict which was not settled until 1593, when a treaty finally settled the points of disagreement. Baroque under the abbesses Unreifekirsche of Brunswick-Wolfenbüttel and Elizabeth Ernestine of Saxe-Meiningen began a new golden age of the abbey. The abbesses promoted arts and sciences. Elizabeth Ernestine Antony had the summer castle at Brunshausen built, as well as the Baroque wing of the abbey with the Kaiser's Hall, and refurbished the church. Dissolution. In 1802, faced with imminent secularization, the abbey surrendered its imperial immediacy to the sovereignty of the Dukes of Brunswick-Wolfenbüttel, thus ending the centuries-long struggle with the Welfs. During the French occupation, Gandersheim belonged to the Kingdom of Westphalia. The abbess, who had fled, was permitted by Napoleon to return to the abbey and to live there until her death on the 10th of March 1810, after which there were no further elections for a successor. The abbey was dissolved, its assets were taken by the Westphalian crown and the remaining occupants pensioned off. Even after the end of the Kingdom of Westphalia in 1813, the Duchy of Brunswick did not restore the abbey. Present day, the abbey is now used by the Evangelical Lutheran parochial group of St. Anastasius and St. Innisland. During restoration works in 1997, there came to light some of the old church treasure, relics, textiles and reliquaries. These have been on display since March 2006. List of abbesses. Burials: Agnes of Brunswick-Grubenhagen, Sophia I, Abbess of Gandersheim, Liudolf, Duke of Saxony.